This is part 3 of our lesson on analyzing a visual text. And in this portion of the lesson, we are going to take what we discussed in lesson 1 and lesson 2 and develop it into an essay. In lesson 1, we analyzed a photo from the Great Depression. And in lesson 2, we analyzed a photo from the Dust Bowl. When we were analyzing the photos, we were thinking about the audience, the details, and the shared values. And what we want to think about now is the appeals of the photographer. And what I mean by that is, was the photographer appealing to our emotions by taking the photo? Or was he appealing to our logic? Or was he appealing to our ethics? Let's go back up and talk about pathos. Pathos, or emotions. Ask yourself, does the image make you feel a specific way? When you were looking at the image of the children picketing during the Great Depression, did you feel sorrow for them? Did you feel any anger toward Roerig and his company for allowing the starvation of the children? Did the inequality disgust you? Were you mournful for the mothers in the photo of the Dust Bowl, that they were out in that desolate area, unable to care for their children? Did any of it make you feel unhappy? And then consider the logic or the logos. Does the image appeal to your sense of reason? In the first image, was it logical or reasonable that Roerig was allowed to work while his fellow employees starved? Was it logical in the second photo that these women were homeless while other people in the nation were not in that situation? And then the last one to think about is the appeals of ethos or ethics. Was the photo taken by a creditable source, a newspaper, a television, a scholar, or a media figure? And in the case of both of these photos, we didn't have attached who took the photo or what newspaper it appeared in. So we're not going to look at the ethics in our essay. We're going to look at the pathos and the logos, because I think we can find that it definitely appealed to our emotions and that it definitely appealed to our logic. So keeping those things in mind, look at photo 1, the Great Depression, and photo 2, the Dust Bowl. Which visual is more persuasive? 1 or 2? Now don't just choose yet. I want you to really think, because in the why it says remember your pathos, your logos, and your ethos. And I underlined pathos and logos because that's the two we're going to focus on. Did visual 1 make you feel emotions? Did you feel sorrow for the children? Did you feel angry toward Roerig? Did you feel sad for this dad who's unable to provide for his family? And I'm going to say yes, this photo appealed to my emotions. Over here in this photo, did you feel sorrow for these women who look weary and tired? Did you feel sad for these children who are starving and in an area where food is obviously scarce? I'm going to say yes, this photo appealed to my emotions. Now looking at logic, does this photo appeal to my sense of reason, or what is logical? Is it reasonable that Roerig, the boss or owner, is able to work and feed his children while this dad has no job and Roerig isn't even helping in the community to feed these starving children? Well, that's unreasonable to me, and that does appeal to my logic. So I'm going to say yes, this photo appeals to my logic. And I can prove that with the evidence in the signs that I'm reading in the photo. Now over here, it is not logical that these women are being forced to live in this tent, in this desolate area, but it's going to be a little harder for me to prove it because I'm not seeing any government officials in the background who aren't doing anything. I don't see any dads who are there or aren't there, or any business owners who aren't allowing these ladies to work. So it's going to be a little harder for me to prove logos here. So I'm going to say that for me, visual 1 is more persuasive, and I chose that because I'm going to have an easier time proving emotions and logic in this photo, and that's going to be my why. Okay, in the next slide, I have a prompt for you, and then I have actually gone through and given you a little bit of an outline that gives you an idea of how you would form your essay. The prompt says, in a well-developed essay, explain which photo is more persuasive, and remember I chose number 1. In your writing, explain the appeals made within the photo, and we're going to look at logic and emotions, or pathos and logos. It says to use the evidence from the image to explain which appeals were more effective. And remember, I told you that I had a little more evidence in visual 1 for the logic, and that's why I chose that one. I knew I was going to have to prove it with evidence. So use evidence from the image to explain which appeals were more effective. And this is what your outline would look like for your essay. In your introduction, make a statement of assertion. If you want to refer back to the beginning of the slideshow and look at the statements that we made, it says to briefly describe the photos and then state which photo is more persuasive. In body paragraph 1, explain how the more persuasive photo appeals to your logic. And remember the things I mentioned about Rorig working and the dad not working. Show proof from the picture that this photo is more persuasive. And then in body paragraph 2, explain how the more persuasive photo appeals to emotions or pathos, and show proof that it is more persuasive. Look at the photo and really look at the emotions that we discussed, the children, the business owner, and the dad, and really show how those emotions were more persuasive. And then in your last paragraph, the conclusion, restate your assertion by giving a general statement about human nature in regards to this photo. Now this would be the part where you might go back to the slideshow and look at the part where we discussed shared values. Remember that we have shared values in human nature. We have work ethics, we have family. Go back and look at that in making your general statement here, which will prove that this photo appealed to your emotions, shared values, and appealed to your logic, work ethics, shared values, in order to be more persuasive. And that is how you would organize an essay on analyzing a visual text. This concludes part 3 of our lesson, Analyzing a Visual Text, Comparison and Contrast.